Today we've got a really specific mission. We're taking one very particular piece of media and looking at how critics around the world reacted to it.
And it's not just about the scores. Our real goal here is to dig into the why.
Exactly. We want to show how different viewpoints can all be valid, especially when you get this collision of passion, faith, and, well, musical genre.
That's the core of it. We're approaching this with respect for every opinion in our sources, really valuing those differences in human perspective. We're here to understand, not to judge who's right.
And our sources today are all Italian. We've got Metal-Italia, Loud and Proud, Metal Shock, and Melodic Rock.ear. And they give us this incredibly polarized and honestly sometimes funny take on our topic.
Which is the greatest gift of all, the brand new Christmas album from, of all bands, the Christian hard rock pioneers, Stryper.
I know, and that polarization is what makes this so good. Here you have a band that's been mixing heavy music and faith for 40 years.
40 years.
And yet, as our sources all point out, they've never done a full Christmas album before now.
It's kind of shocking when you think about it.
Right. Loud and Proud and Metal-Italia both flagged this as a huge surprise. They had a track here or there, like Reason for the Season, way back in '85.
A classic.
But never a full record. And you have to wonder, for a band whose faith is, to quote Metallus, a strongly characterizing element, why did it take 4 decades?
It does feel like they're filling a historical gap. But waiting this long also, it raises the stakes.
How so?
Well, they're not just dropping an album. They're basically defining how Christian hard rock is supposed to handle Christmas.
That's so.
So the real conflict here is this a sincere, well-done holiday project?
Or is it just kind of tacky? An unnecessary experiment?
Exactly. That's the line they have to walk.
Okay, so let's get into it, because the band's approach feels less like some artistic whim and more like a calculated strategy.
Oh, absolutely. We have to start with the structure. Stryper's identity is everything. Metal Shock reminds us they've sold over 10 million albums on this fusion of metal and faith.
So when they finally tackle Christmas, they're not winging it.
Not at all. The album is built almost mathematically. It is split exactly in half. 5 brand new original songs, 5 traditional covers.
And they alternate them, right? 1 original, 1 cover, 1 original.
Precisely. It's a highly intentional structure.
That feels defensive, almost. Like they knew this was a critical minefield and they were trying to navigate it with as much control as possible.
I think you're right. Metal-Italia and Metallus both picked up on that formula. If they'd done 10 covers, they'd be called unoriginal.
And if they'd done 10 originals, they'd be accused of ignoring the holiday spirit, the nostalgia.
Exactly. So this 5 and 5 split was their way of showing respect to their own legacy and to what people expect from a Christmas album.
There's a line from Metal Shock that just nails this whole idea. In Italian, it says, "Ci sono album che nascono per scuotere, altri per sorprendere, altri ancora per devere."
Which for you translates to,
there are albums that are born to shake, others to surprise, others still to divide.
And Metal Shock argues this album does all 3 at once. It shakes things up just by existing, it surprises with that calculated formula, and as we're about to see, it absolutely divides the critics.
Okay, so let's start with the originals. This is where the critics seem to mostly agree. They felt Stryper was, playing it safe by just playing it Stryper.
Yes, general consensus here. Sources like Metal-Italia and Metallus called the original tracks the most successful and coherent part of the album.
So when they wrote new stuff, they didn't try to reinvent Christmas music.
No, they just wrote good Stryper songs. The title track, The Greatest Gift of All, and Still the Light, they slot right into their classic hard rock style.
You got the big melodies, the riffs, the huge choruses, but let me push back on that a bit. If the original songs just sound like regular Stryper songs, is that a win for a Christmas album?
That's a fair question. But the sources seem to suggest that safety was the point. Metallus called the originals coherent because they proved the band's identity was still there, even in a holiday context.
They were being consistent.
They delivered the blueprint. And they tied it all together by re-recording that 1985 single, Reason for the Season.
Ah, right. Putting that in the middle of all the new stuff really connects the dots, doesn't it?
It makes the whole project feel less like a random one-off and more like a culmination of their career. The originals built a foundation.
Okay, foundation's built. Now let's walk into the minefield, the covers. This is where things get, well, messy.
This is where it gets really interesting. Their general approach to the covers was actually quite respectful. They tried to keep the original vibe, really leaning on Michael Sweet's voice and those signature choirs.
Metallus even used the word Gentile.
Meaning gentle or kind.
Gentle hard rock. That's already a contradiction, isn't it? That gentleness could be seen as nuanced and respectful or...
Or as a total lack of metal commitment. And Loud and Proud really hits the nail on the head. They point out that we associate Christmas music with, like, Michael Bublé or Mariah Carey.
Smooth pop.
So Stryper's already challenging your ear just by being in the same room.
But some of the covers did work. The critics weren't all Grinches.
Not at all. Winter Wonderland, for example, was a huge highlight for a lot of them.
What'd they like about it?
They loved that it was a proper metallic version. Metal Italia mentioned compact riffs and an almost glam flair. They fully committed to the transformation.
Okay, so when they went all in on the metal, it worked.
It did. Same with the spiritual Go Tell It on the Mountain. Loud and Proud and Metallis both loved that one. They said it became an
energetic anthem.
Yes. They took religious source material and injected their signature power, and it felt authentic.
But when they didn't commit, that's when the criticism came in.
Hard. Little Drummer Boy was a real sticking point.
Yeah.
Loud and Proud called it troppo, which is just too much.
Too much.
They called it a long and interminable prayer. Even with that marching beat, the metal part just didn't seem to justify it for them.
And some tracks just didn't register at all. Melodic Rock was not impressed with a few of them, saying they were unoriginal or forgettable.
Right. The Gentile approach sometimes just came across as boring.
Which brings us to the most polarizing song of all, the one that perfectly fits our mission today, Silent Night.
Ah, yes. So on one hand, you have Loud and Proud describing it as a beautiful ballad with ethereal tones. They clearly loved the quiet, reverent approach.
Okay, beautiful and ethereal. But then, melodicrock.it, talking about the exact same song, said the ballad version leaves the listener un po basito.
Which means a little stunned or dumbfounded.
How is that possible? How can one song be both ethereal and make you dumbfounded? Doesn't that mean the band just failed?
I don't think so. I think it means the band succeeded at being sincere, but they couldn't control the listener's expectations.
Go on.
The critic who heard ethereal was listening for religious sentiment. The critic who was dumbfounded was probably expecting a full-on metal power ballad, something like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and felt Stryper didn't deliver the goods.
So the difference isn't in the music itself, but in what the critic wanted from it in the first place.
Exactly. It's sincerity versus expectation. And that sincerity is what seems to save the album for a lot of the reviewers, even the skeptical ones.
They see the honesty in it.
Yes. They know Stryper isn't being ironic or just putting out a cynical cash grab. This leads us to another key quote, this one from Metal Shock. È un disco che non ha paura di essere ciò che è. Dichiaratamente natalizio, dichiaratamente cristiano, dichiaratamente Stryper.
That's a powerful one. It translates to, it is an album that is not afraid to be what it is. Declaredly Christmassy, declaredly Christian, declaredly Stryper.
It's a statement of total self-acceptance. They're not hiding anything. This is them.
And Metallis backs that up, describing the album as più onesto, forse anche più sofferto, more honest, and maybe even more labored or thought out than other holiday albums.
That intentionality is what wins people over. It feels authentic, even if you don't love every track.
So if the intent is honest and the structure is solid, what's the final verdict? It really does come down to the listener, doesn't it?
It's all about predisposition. You have to be open to the idea of a hard rock Christmas to begin with.
Metalitalia had a great quote for this, playing on the classic holiday villain.
They did.
The original says, Il resto sta tutto nella predisposizione di ciascuno. Chi invece nasconde un'anima verdastra da Grinch. Di certo non cambierà idea grazie a questo disco. A voi la scelta.
Which is just perfect.
Yeah.
The rest all lies in one's predisposition. Whoever, on the other hand, hides a greenish soul like the Grinch certainly won't change their mind thanks to this album. The choice is yours.
The Grinch factor. That's it. If you come into this with a Grinch soul, if you're a genre purist, nothing here is going to change your mind. You'll be one of the dumbfounded ones.
But if you're a fan, or you're just open to the novelty and the sincerity, the album works. And that's why looking at all these reviews is so important.
Yeah.
The critique says more about the reviewer's own boundaries for genre and holidays than it does about the objective quality of the music.
On that, let's just add a few final production notes that the sources mention. We're talking the historic lineup, right? Michael and Robert Sweet, Oz Fox, and Perry Richardson.
Yep, the real deal. And everyone agreed their production quality was top-notch. Melodicrock.it said it was ben prodotto e soprattutto ben suonato, well-produced and especially well-played.
This wasn't a cheap, rushed job. Metallis even mentioned authentic and woody sounds. which makes you think of quality and warmth.
But maybe the most surprising detail was about the format. Metellus pointed out that the album was released only in physical formats.
In 2025, no streaming.
No streaming, at least initially, just CD or vinyl.
Wow, that's a statement. That's not about grabbing passive holiday listeners. That's an artifact for your dedicated fans, for the collectors.
Which brings it all full circle, back to that sincerity. The differing reviews are just different, valid insights into what people expect from music. Stryper just made an album that was 100%.
So in the end, Stryper made this mathematically structured, deeply honest Christmas album that perfectly reflects who they are, and it split the critics based on, well, the Grinch factor.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And for a final thought, let's go back to that idea of commercialism. The sources often compare Stryper to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but note Stryper is way less orchestral, more straightforward rock.
Right.
So think about this. Holiday music is probably the most commercialized, mass-market genre there is. So what does it say about an artist's integrity when they release something that is dichiaratamente cristiano, declaredly Christian, and make it physical, only for their core fans, instead of chasing that massive commercial appeal?
Huh.
It's something to think about the next time you put on a festive album.
I wasn't lying, I wasn't sure.